It's a story of kindness that came from tragedy, a horrific national tragedy. When terrorists attacked the U.S. soil on September 11, 2001, thousands of airplanes were grounded immediately, some flying to other countries and becoming stranded for days, many of them in Gander, Newfoundland.
KTIV's Katie Koppel has more on the story depicted in a musical you can see tonight in Sioux City.
Due to a terrorist attack in the United States, we'll be landing in Gander.
Meet Kevin Turf. He was flying from Paris into New York City on September 11, 2001. His plane diverted to the small town of Gander, Newfoundland when the U.S. airspace was closed. It could have been a nightmare. Instead, it turned into something no one could have imagined when the residents of Gander opened their doors to strangers.
They brought us into their homes, their schools, their churches, and they gave us food, clothing, shelter, information, and love. And it was a life-changing experience.
That life-changing experience now coming to life on the stage in a Broadway musical titled Come From Away.
So my name is Addison Garner. I have the wonderful privilege and opportunity of playing Beverly Bass in Come From Away.
Bass, the first female captain for American Airlines, was one of the pilots diverted to Gander that day. It's her story and others that show how a small town chose to spread kindness in the midst of a tragedy.
No matter how old you were, we all remember that horrific event that happened, but that there was still such goodness that could come out of that. And I think that's what we try to focus on throughout our story.
12 people on stage tell the stories of the real people of Gander and the come from aways they took in. One of those stories is Turf's. Along with his journey being told on stage, he also wrote a book on the kindness he and the thousands of others were shown.
I wrote a book called Channel of Peace with my story that goes telling more stories beyond the musical. There wasn't a stove in this small town that wasn't turned on cooking for all these stranded passengers. That's why I started the Pay It Forward 9/11 effort, where we encourage people every September 11th to honor the lives of those who died on 9/11 by doing 3 good deeds for strangers.
Come From Away, the musical, opened on Broadway in New York City in 2017 with national tours and worldwide production spreading a message of kindness around the globe.
But the message hopefully people walk away from is that why does it take a natural disaster or a terrorist attack for us to be kind and compassionate to help our fellow human beings? Because you'll see in the musical just how easy it is for everyone to step up and help each other.
We bow together as an ensemble at the end, and I think it really just restores the goodness and the hope that we all have in humanity.
In Sioux City, Katie Koppel, KTIV News 4.
Come From Away on stage tonight at the Orpheum Theater. Tickets are still available. To learn more about the Pay It Forward 9/11 movement or to order Kevin Turf's book, check this story at KTIV.com.